The Packers collapse versus the Vikings, a total meltdown in the first half, but there was hope in the second half. Our thoughts from an emotional roller coaster of a game.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm cash.
All right, everybody, welcome into Sounds Gouda. Coming to you the day after a heartbreaking and emotional loss to our division rivals and, my most hated team, the Minnesota Vikings. So come to you with a lot of mixed emotions today. First and foremost, Packers kind of beating themselves. But before we get into that, just want to give some of our normal thank yous. Thanks for being here to our new and returning listeners. We're excited to be talking Packers football again with you all this week. For those of you who know us, my name's Jordan Olson. My co-host here is Rob Ralph. And we have new episodes coming out every week right now in season on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So you can find those on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And before we get into the football, just want to send our thoughts and prayers out to those who have been affected by Hurricane Helene. I can't imagine there's bigger things than football out there, what it would be like to be in the South, North Carolina, the other affected areas, and some of those towns and homes just absolutely devastated and washed away. The pictures and videos have been impactful, horrific, heartbreaking. So just definitely wanted to say, hey, there's some things bigger than football, and we're thinking about the people affected by that hurricane. So, but yeah, so kind of that note leads us right into this game, Rob. So the Packers lose at the hands of the Minnesota Vikings 31-29. What are your thoughts?
I won't try to steal too many of the storylines as sometimes I tend to do on this show. But I think we hit it on the head, from a lot of, I'll say specifically your thoughts too, from just the preview. You said, what are we going to do about Jordan Addison? Granted, I know, obviously it really hurt to have Ja out and Valentine, but he cooked us, man. He smoked Valentine on that stutter step and go on that first TD. Darnold hit him in stride too, so yeah, he killed us. I think he scored again too on an end around as well, but that was one of your biggest things that you had hit on too. Who was going to cover Jordan Addison? And granted, I think at that time too we weren't in the know of some of that injury situation and stuff too. I think another big storyline, obviously, losing 31-29. We've talked on this show multiple times, probably ad nauseum for me, but we thought, missing one of these field goals, two specifically in this one, was going to come back to hurt us. And granted, yeah, we were getting our butts whooped in that first half. There is no doubt about that. It was two completely different Packers teams. Second half, we tuned it up a little bit more and actually got the ball rolling. And our offense looked like the way it was, from the second half of last year. So, but two missed field goals, I'm just listening to Matt LaFleur. I know that he's saying that he still has a ton of confidence in him, but, and needs to translate over to games. I think that's a duh. I'm not expecting this guy to come in here to be perfect, but I think he missed that 37-yarder in just about perfect conditions. And that would have won you the game right there, right? So I think both those things are a couple of some of the massive ones that stood out to me. There's probably about 20 more different things, but I'll let you take the floor here for a little bit.
Yeah, we won't talk a lot about the kicking game, but it just has to be better. And you kind of addressed it. The problem is there's not a lot of great answers out there. People, by the time you hear this conversation will be long discussed and people will have looked over the options. But I think the best course of action is to ride with Braden Narvison for at least a few more weeks, see if you can instill some confidence in him. Clearly, he has some talent. I did see something along the lines that he's averaging like 69 point something percent of his kicks, and the league average is 75% of kicks made over 50 yards right now. So obviously we're well short of that expectation. So it was a point of emphasis for us in the preseason. We did not fix this problem as of now. And we're just going to have to ride this out and cross our fingers a little bit and see what happens from there. To me, watching this game, it was really interesting. I bookmarked it in my notes. I said game over at the 5-minute and 28-second mark of the second quarter. It was that bad.
Yeah.
And I thought this right off the jump. And the Vikings have only trailed like 3 minutes this entire season. And I think about when the Packers have played the best, not only last year after they found their identity, but, through the Rodgers years, when we take the ball and we start out and we control the game and it opens up Matt LaFleur's total playbook, we often play our best. And knowing that the Vikings have been playing well, they've been playing with leads this whole time, making it comfortable for Sam Darnold. And huge credit to O'Connell and Darnold, because they had our way with us. And O'Connell's a hell of a play caller. I really have a lot of respect for him so far. And then pair him with the defensive coordinator and scheme that they have. And the Vikings are a great team right now. I'll totally say I underestimated them in the offseason. And the linebacker additions they have, they've been a perfect fit. Sam Darnold has been he's reinventing himself in this comfortable scheme for him. But I think that was a big mistake. I think LaFleur should have taken the ball. I think we should have went out and got a lead and tried to make them play from behind. Some other obvious things, it's been talked about a bunch, but Love didn't look the most comfortable through the first half. I think when he was down and realized he just kind of needed to rip it, he got more comfortable and you started to see him throw the ball with more accuracy, which obviously made things easier for the wide receivers. Dontavian Wicks kind of had the tale of two games, drops in the first half, and he's got to get that figured out now. I gave him the benefit of the doubt on that field in Sao Paulo against the Eagles, but he's had a number of drops, and he needs to hit the jugs machine or something. But I think he got some confidence, hopefully, in the second half. And I don't know. The other thing that I think was just like the final gut punch for me in this game is that we had 4 total turnovers, 2 missed field goals, 8 more penalties for like 86 yards again. And we were still in a position to potentially win at the end of the game. It just really has me feeling like the Packers beat themselves. Very similar to the way that I felt when the Packers lost to the Eagles. We just had bigger things on our mind at that point in time, like what is the future of this team without Jordan Love potentially. So
there is so many different takeaways. It was such an emotional roller coaster. Just even looking back at my tweets on X are just all over the board, especially when we were climbing back in that second half. I gotta think though, like when the Vikings were on that first drive and McDuffie misses that pick,
mm-hmm.
and that would have changed the outcome of the game if the Packers would have gone in, scored and then went up early themselves, like you're talking about. Now, granted, I know they didn't take the ball at first, but that was obviously a massive missed opportunity from us on what was just an overall, complete meltdown on the day from everybody. The pass rush, I was listening to Matt LaFleur a little bit too. He's saying that they're playing a little bit more contained, not quote unquote unleashing the hounds like I've said in previous episodes, but there's just some alarming stats on here too, where like, Rashawn Gary, pass rush win rate at PFF is 3% through 4 games. It was 17.3% in 2022 and 16% in 2023. So the concern level on that is definitely rising. I thought the way that Athlete responded, obviously in the second half, brought a lot more pressure, got a lot more unique with his blitzes, definitely helped, right? And it helped us get a couple of turnovers. So it was a lot to take about. The Vikings are a really good team, and me and you both thought that we did not think, we did not see this coming, right? So, hell of a job by that coaching staff and that team. Ryan Flores obviously was doing his thing, making life absolutely hell for Jordan Love too as well, So, and you figured he would, right? He's going to test out his knee, so.
Yeah, and the Vikings playmakers, their big three on offense, Jefferson, Addison, and Jones, they all showed up. We haven't spent very much time at none on this episode, so far. Super classy, I thought, of Aaron Jones to release his article in the Players Tribune. You can tell he still has a lot of love for the city of Green Bay, but he's a Minnesota Viking now. He wanted to go out and show the Packers what they were missing. I think he had like 130 or 140 total yards on the day. We did keep him out of the end zone, although I know he leaped into the stands after the game, but I'll let him slide on that one because I still do love me some Aaron Jones. Have a little separated feelings for him while he's in that purple and gold uniform, but he still's got some juice. I expect him to play well over the next season or two and then kind of see where things settle from there. On a positive note, like again, Jayden Reed is proving that he's the man in this offense. He had a monster day, 7 receptions, 139 yards, a TD, some designed looks for him in the run game. I love Jayden Reed. I love me some Jayden Reed, and I think they're going to continue to feature him, and then figure out which is the guy that's around him. Wicks was the big secondary receiver. Obviously, we're going to have to do without Watson for a while. Kraft is getting some love, but Jayden Reed, he's a dude.
Yeah, he's really good. He's very, very good. You can tell that the a lot of the passing offense so far, it's Jayden Reed, it's Devontae Wicks. And Wicks is dropping balls, but they keep going back to him, and they did. And eventually paid off. But, and granted, some of those passes too were low, but still, anybody would say if it's in your hands, you should catch it, right? So that one he caught, that would have been a touchdown. Massive, So that was just your point of emphasis on us beating ourselves in multitude of different ways, but yet only losing by 2 points. So it was such an emotional roller coaster. I kind of figured there was going to be a lot of rust for sure. But the Vikings came out and they hit us in the mouth. They did it more than a couple times, and that's a really good football team. I was hoping to get a little bit more pressure from our front four too as well, but obviously, hurts having the injuries of Devontae Wyatt. Massive for us. He's already really been our best defensive line player too, and Christian Watson, like you're alluding to. But a lot of positives to take away from this too.
Yeah, and just to talk about the interior defensive line, obviously Rashawn Gary's been a little bit of no-show to school so far, but Kenny Clark, a lot of people were expecting him to have a great game this past weekend. Because the Vikings has been a team that he's handled pretty well. He's taken advantage of that line and the interior, Garrett Bradbury. I noticed him on like one play in real time. Very un-Kenny Clark of it all. And, you'd expect him after, what is this, his 8th or 9th NFL season to maybe take a little time to get adjusted. I think we're noticing that with some of the veterans that maybe, I don't know if it's whatever they went through with Joe Barry in the previous, 3-4 that they played in, is some of those techniques so ingrained that, Preston and him and some of the other vets are taking a little bit longer to adjust. I'm not ready to blast the panic mode on those vets yet, but we need to see some incrementally better performance from them soon, because that'll make a difference.
So Jordan, I mean, you probably already know this, but react to this. Rashawn Gary, guess how many sacks he's had in the last 13 total games, so spanning back the year from before. This is another crazy stat.
I know. I think it's like 1 in his last 11 games. So is that
Yeah.
number? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, that was it. I thought
like
it
a
was 13, maybe it was 11, but yeah.
He had like a 3-sack game prior to that stretch, but then yeah, he's been very cold.
I was seeing some film too, just from some other podcasters as well that have the all 20, like they're lucky enough to have the all 22 where they're paying for it, which is pretty sweet. But he's getting taken advantage by tight ends. Now, I think Oliver was their tight end, and I think he's traditionally a bigger blocking type of tight end, but there was a couple reps there where he's absolutely schooling Gary and putting him to work. Gary needs to be better on a tight end that he's got, 30, 40, whatever pounds on. So,
well, the next time they match up, we're going to probably have TJ Hawkinson to worry about too. So, I don't know. I've said this all along. The Packers and Vikings, you're probably going to split this series, 4 out of 5 years. It's probably the one rivalry we've had that's been consistent over the last 2 decades or so, where they can come into our place or we can go into their place. We can come out with a victory. It doesn't matter if the one team is 10-5 and the other is 5-10. It's going to be a scrap. The Vikings and their fan base have always treated winning in Green Bay and knocking Green Bay out of the playoffs. I mean, it's like a secondary Super Bowl or division title for them. Anything that they can get over on us, so they're always gonna show up. And you know what, that makes it fun. It hurts to lose a game like this because of that. So, let's try to end on a couple positive notes here as we recap this Vikings game and kind of moving forward. So, what are 1 or 2 things that you saw that we can really positively take from this game and focus on moving forward, either against the Rams or just as we move forward into the season?
I mean, continue playing the way that you did in the second half. Now, I'm saying not pass the ball 90% of the time. Obviously you're going to have a lot more, running the ball, and you want to have Josh Jacobs get involved as well as Manuel Wilson, but they were cooking, man. And it's like you could see the ceiling, but they're like, I don't feel like they're quite there yet. And I don't know what that looks like. That would be absolutely incredible. But I think it would remind me a little bit of that 2010 and 11 Rodgers, right? Where they're just absolutely, that offense was killer with Finley and Jennings and whatnot. So it's starting to, not starting, I mean, I know the back half of last year was moving up to that, but that for the offense, obviously run the ball a little bit more, get that ball into Josh Jacobs' hand. And then what they were doing on defense, I felt that they played a lot more passively in the first half. And granted, I get it. Like, you don't want to commit another guy or 2 up and then try and blitz and then leave yourself completely destroyed in the back end with your Jordan Addisons and Justin Jefferson. So I can totally understand where Hafley's coming on that, but I felt like the more pressure, the more unique blitzes, the more forcing Darnold to get the ball out of his hands, right? And then you had a couple of turnovers. So those 2 specific things for me.
One thing that I was particularly impressed with was once we were in the game, it was 28-22. Oh, no, it was beyond that point, actually. But I think this was after Kraft's turnover. And, I listened to his post-game media access, and it seemed like he was pretty beat up by that. And like I said, I have a lot of respect for Kraft. But anyways, we're in a 2-minute drive, and essentially in like 3 throws, we had the 3 big passes from Love to Reed twice and Wicks, and we're in the end zone, and it's like just lightning in a bottle. Yeah. He went out, Jordan Love made big throws, and it was like, hey, if we need to score in 45 seconds against one of the best defenses in the league, we've got the dudes to do it. And, we've seen them do it before. We've seen them come back and lead the Packers to victory in other times, like last year's Saints game. But, just to go ahead and go out there and again and say, hey, on a unit that beat us up pretty well today, we can go out at will and we can get one when the game is on the line, is just too much to overcome. So that was a huge positive for me. This is a really low-hanging fruit, but we haven't talked about Xavier McKinney yet. And I mean, we got an all-pro. I mean, he's already give the guy like another interception and he's already got like a Pro Bowl year if he does nothing else.
Yeah.
But the marriage of him on the Packers and Hafley and his leadership and, whatever we're letting him do, we're letting that dog hunt right now. And he probably shouldn't have had an interception yesterday. I think we all know that he was out of bounds, but we're going to count it in the stat book. His impact has been felt out there significantly each and every game. And I really look forward to many years with Xavier McKinney kind of being that Charles Woodson of our defense. Because when we got Charles, we all know that changed everything for us back when we had that run. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Charles Woodson, Super Bowl. Reggie White, Super Bowl. Xavier McKinney, Super Bowl?
It's very early to put him into that kind of company. But
I know.
But could you imagine? It's fun to think about if he comes to us with far less pedigree than those two players did at the time they joined the Packers, multiple time All-Pros, or maybe, Reggie White is considered the best player at his position at the time.
And
Charles
he's
Woodson, former Heisman winner, multi-time All-Pro at that point in time.
And he's only 24 years old still.
Yeah.
And he's the leader in that safety room. He's the oldest. He's the veteran in that safety room. This is crazy. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's hit. We know his floor. That's comfortable. That's really good, competent safety play. Mm-hmm. If he hasn't hit his ceiling yet, woo, he's gonna be good. He already is good, man. So if he continues to get better, yeah, it's it's fun stuff to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just looking at a couple of the PFF grades, I mean, he's scored a 91 in this game. Evan Williams with an 81 as the second graded defensive player. And then I'm very, very surprised by the next three top 5 defensive players in Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, and Kenny Clark, because the game that I watched doesn't exactly line up with my feelings about how those 3 players played. So I'd be very interested if I could interview a staffer from PFF right now. Tell me more about those grades, because just watching the game broadcast, and we don't have the all-22, my eye test didn't match that.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, Quay Walker, they did send him on a blitz a couple times. I think he had a sack, so maybe obviously that's going to be accredited somewhere in there. But his overall play, no, yeah. I mean, it's so hard to like. I do wish we had the all 22, and maybe someday we will with the PFF and stuff. But
we need a few more subscribers so we can start monetizing this, and then we can bring you even better content so we can afford things like PFF and all 22. But so please subscribe. No.
Yeah. Tell a friend or two, please. We're desperate. Not at all. No. No, we appreciate it. So, I mean, it just goes to show, like, we're not looking at every single snap with a fine-tooth comb. But from, like, just a general, like, he made a play here and there, or he's looking pretty good, he's getting pressure. Mm-hmm. Then I didn't see that too much. So I would agree with you.
Yeah, and, Quay, I think he kind of almost lucked into that sack he got, too. He came through the gap, and I think he was, like, surprised, like, I'm here. There's Sam Darnold, and I'm going to tackle him, right? But then top 5 on offense, too. These are PFF grades, Pro Football Focus for people who might not know PFF. But, Zach Tom, you didn't hear hardly anything about him all game. And when you're talking about offensive line, that's a great thing, right? You don't give up a sack. You don't have a penalty. You don't hear about a pressure. You know, he had like an 89 on the game. Zach Tom was just settling into like, you know, definitely Pro Bowl caliber right tackle. You know, I think his ceiling's a lot higher than that. Jayden Reed had a great game. Rasheed Walker, did he have an early penalty in this game, or did he finally? I think he had one, but
He might have.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure. He's had so many this season; it's hard to know if he's gone a game without one.
Yeah.
But Walker, you know, our tackles are having a really solid season. Emmanuel Wilson graded out well, and Jordan Love, despite his very Brett Favre-esque day, 4 touchdowns, 389 yards, I think, and 3 picks. You know, graded out at nearly a 70%. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think Zach Tom, he might be starting to head into the category of best right tackle in the league. If not, he's definitely on the top, because all the sort of stuff that the charts and the whatnot from the fantasy points guys that I follow there on X, he's always in the top right quadrant, right? So, and that too, like you're just alluding to, he's just he is absolutely amazing, man. He's just a stud to have there. So
yeah. So we'll skip the bottom stuff. We're gonna try to stay off the negative stuff. We've already beat this up, and by the time you listen to this on Wednesday, you'll have been over it all already. But do our look around the league, Rob. What happened on Sunday? And I know we got as we record this, it's Monday night. We've got the Lions playing Seattle, which is a big NFC matchup. Could have implications for the Packers one way or another.
yes, the Lions do play Seattle tonight. It's in Detroit, right? I believe. Yes.
Yep.
The Bears beat the Rams in Chicago. So that was a good game. Jayden Daniels looks good. Looks very, very good. They're starting to heat over there. Dan Quinn's doing a really good job. Commanders beat up on my Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. Cardinals. Bucks win big over the Eagles. That was a good bounce back win for them over the Denver Broncos, who got another win against your New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers, 10-9. What a thrilling game that was. Falcons field goal by a really good kicker, Younghoe Koo, beat the Saints.
Can we get one of those?
Yeah. It's like that X-Men picture where you're like looking at Mason Crosby. I've seen that go through the interwebs. Miss you, Mason. Ravens destroyed the Bills. Absolutely slaughtered them. Like I was telling you from before, when they were 0-2, nothing to panic on. They're still one of the best teams in the league. So we appreciate everybody coming on. Just know, like Jordan said at the top of the video, we do have in-season videos come out every Wednesday and Saturday. Wednesday is the recap from the game previous. Saturday is the preview for the following game. So we really appreciate you all coming on and taking some time. If you know another Packer friend or two, make sure to send them our way. We would appreciate it. Obviously, we're on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. Jordan and I are also on X. You can find me at Robber79. You can also find Jordan at Olson Jordan. But we do appreciate it. And let's look forward to kicking some butt out west in LA. Hope you all have a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good night. Take care. Go back out.
Been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better.